When you look around and you see the spiritual poverty of the people around us, sometimes in ourselves, because of course we have to be humble and fair, it can seem really grim. But I want to tell you about another time in church history where things seem very grim. Go back to the medieval ages, where everybody was Catholic and everybody was giving their money to the church. And the church had tons of money and tons of power. But again, spiritual poverty in some people, even the hierarchy, was at an all-time high. Pope Innocent III invited a very, very well-renowned person to his cathedral in Rome one time during this era. And when this young man got to the cathedral, which was full of gold, the Pope starts giving this young man a tour of this cathedral and says, look over here, look how beautiful this is, look at the embroidery here, look at the gold here. And he turns to this young man and he says, you see, the times are gone in which the church can say, we have no money. And that young man looked right back in the Pope's eyes to his face and said, yeah, but the times are also gone in which the successor of Peter could say, rise and walk. That man was St. Francis of Assisi. He showed up in the middle of one of the most spiritually and financially corrupt times in the church. Why? Because God has his stamp of approval on the church. The church, even though it seems like it sometimes, will not go anywhere. It will never fall. It will never fail. The church has a guaranteed stamp of approval. Jesus said, I will not leave you orphans. He said, I will be with you to the end of the age. And you see people like Francis popping up every single time it looks like the church is about to fall apart. Every single time it looks like division is going to get us for whatever reason, or the culture is going to get us, or people are just it's going to fizzle out and no one's going to believe anymore. He raises up saints. And these saints save the church. And it's happened multiple times throughout its history. In the medieval ages, it was St. Francis. He had an entirely new way of living. The problem during that time was financial greed, right? Spiritual, people being fake, more about the looks of things than the actual love in their heart for God. What did he do? He says, I'm going to create a whole new order where I just beg. I rely on God for everything. I own nothing. We own nothing. We're going to take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And people at first said, you are crazy for doing this. And quickly became the fastest spreading and largest order in the church. Very quickly, converting the church, reviving it from the inside out. You know the story. He's asleep in an old abandoned church. It's broken down, Francis, and he had a conversion as well. He was not into his faith his entire life. He's sitting there in this old abandoned church. He was kind of a party boy himself, and all of a sudden he hears a voice come from the crucifix. Francis, rebuild my church. As you can see, it's falling apart. Like, what? He gets up, and having some carpentry experience, what does he do? He literally rebuilds the little church that he's in. After he's done, a little while later is when he realizes Jesus, whom that voice was, he wasn't talking about that little church. He was talking about the entire Catholic Church. Rebuild my church. As you can see, it's falling apart. Wow. And he did. And he did.